Apple is one of the most innovative companies in the entire world, and the brand loyalty they have with their consumers is unmatched. And in today's video, I'm going to teach you exactly what you need to do to nail your interview so you can get a job at the Apple Store. Let's go. Hi everybody, my name is Ben White with Ben Talks Talent. I've got 12 years experience in interviewing, hiring, and recruiting. And I'm passionate about using my experience to help you become the best candidate possible and land your next job. And today specifically, I'm going to teach you how to land a job at Apple in their retail store. But before we get into the video, do me a quick favor. If you were new here, take 3 seconds, subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that notification bell. That way you never miss one of my videos that are free and designed to help you become an expert interviewer. And if you are not new, welcome back. Let's get into the video. Now, I want to tell you what you're in for today. I'm going to move through this really quickly and efficiently, but here's a high-level overview of everything that I'm going to cover in this video. I'm going to talk about what it is they look for in a candidate. I'm also going to cover what it is they look to avoid in a candidate. I'm also going to tell you about the process. What is the actual interview process you will go through on your way to landing your job? We're going to do a real quick overview of their values and how you can use their values to nail your interview. And then finally, we're going to go through confirmed interview questions, and I'm going to teach you how to answer them. That way, you are ready for whatever they throw at you. These interview questions are actually confirmed by people who have gone through the process, so it is going to be incredibly valuable for you to stick around to the very end to hear all of the questions. That way, you have the answers to the questions in the test before you even take it. All right, let's start. Now, first and foremost, here's what they're looking for. They're looking for interest and passion in the brand overall. That's what they're looking for. A former Apple Store employee summed it up succinctly by saying they look for 3 things. They look for enthusiasm, personality, and approachability. And it all makes sense, right? Enthusiasm for the brand, passion around what it is they do. Personality, somebody who people want to engage with, connect with, and can build miniature little micro relationships with during their process. And finally, approachability. They want people that when people come into the Apple Store, you're someone they feel comfortable talking to, asking questions, sharing concerns. That is what they look for. That is what makes a successful Apple employee in their retail store. Now let's move to what they don't look for. They're not looking for fanatics. There is a difference between passion and enthusiasm and someone who is obsessed with Apple, obsessed with Steve Jobs. That's not what they're looking for. A lot of people go into the interview assuming that you need to be some sort of crazed super fan to land that job. That is not what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody who has the technical ability to actually solve these problems, someone who is technical in nature and has those personality traits. Are you passionate? Are you enthusiastic? Are you friendly? Are you approachable? That's what they're looking for, not a super fan. Now I'm going to start describing their process. Their process basically is broken down into 3 things. First, there's a phone interview. On that phone interview, it's 20 minutes with a recruiter. This is something where if you applied, you might get into the process, or if you go to a career fair and sign up on a sheet, people have also been contacted that way where they go, hey, saw that you signed up at a career fair here or a job fair. We want to schedule an interview. That interview is only going to take about 20 minutes. It's going to be quick. They're going to go over your background, your interest specifically, and I'm going to teach you how to answer this question later in that portion of the video, but they're going to ask you, why Apple? And they ask this for all of their positions. I've actually done a video on how to be like a software engineer and how to land a job at Apple corporate. Now this is Apple retail, but they both still ask why Apple. It is incredibly important. I'll teach you how to answer it later. Now the next step is on-site interviews. Now this could be 1, 2, or 3 on-site interviews. This is where you're meeting with potentially multiple hiring managers. It is not uncommon for you to meet with multiple hiring managers, maybe multiple shifts, and then they will collectively determine where you fit. And then finally, they also do group interviews. So they do an on-site group interactive interview. Now they do this for a few reasons. This includes role playing, and they're there trying to judge your interpersonal skills. But it's not uncommon for them to actually go through selling role-playing, selling an Apple Watch, selling an iPad, and going through. And while you won't know all the specifications, while you won't know their processes, what they are looking for are those core customer service, approachability, and passion skills that are ultimately going to make you a good fit and a good candidate for the role. So very high overview of their process. You're looking at a phone screen, interview with a hiring manager, potentially a couple of them, and then finally a group on-site interactive interview experience where you're doing role playing. That at a very high level, that's what you're looking for, and that's what they'll be doing in the interview process. I want to talk about values next because values are incredibly important to Apple. If you go to their website and you look at the About Us or Values section, they actually have them listed out. They have their definitions. I would recommend that not only do you go and do your cursory research on Apple, recent events, and all that stuff, but spend some time investing, looking at their cultural values. Now, I'm going to share them with you here, but do yourself a favor. Every single time you have an Apple interview, before you go in, go to their website, bookmark this page, and read through and familiarize yourself with their values again. When companies dedicate an entire web page to their values and they have definitions and you can actually click on them and learn more about it, that should tell you it's incredibly important to them and it's not something for you to skim over, but instead become familiar with. Now, their values are accessibility, education, environment, inclusion and diversity, privacy, racial equity, justice, and supplier responsibility. Those are all incredibly important to them, but I also want you to remember this as an interviewer, because when you are interviewing, it's not only that you want to know these, but you want to exemplify these, right? They're looking for people who can do this role and can serve their customers, but also are going to have value alignment and be a culture fit with Apple. So I think it's important just to go over these. We're about to move into the question and answers for the interview, but as you're answering these questions, think about weaving some of this in. When you're talking about education, you're educating their potential customers. When you're talking about supplier responsibility, that's incredibly important because it comes to sourcing the parts that they use and what they put in their product and echoing that to their customers, talking about how that's important, and accessibility. They want their products to be accessible to everybody. So these are just things that it is important for you to remember as you go into the interview. Now, let's go into what most of you probably came for, and that's the questions you're going to be asked and then how you can go about answering them successfully. Now, I've broken this down into three different parts. We're gonna go over just a high-level question, just a blanket question that everybody's gonna be asked. We're going to go into personality questions, so questions they specifically ask about your personality traits. And then finally, we're gonna talk about some of the behavioral interview questions. Those are last. Make sure you stick around for them. I have a specific strategy that are gonna help you answer all the behavioral interview questions you get for the rest of your life, but you'll specifically be able to use them for this interview with Apple. Now, the high-level question is why Apple? And honestly, if you can't answer this question, I kind of wonder, why are you even interviewing for this? Anytime you interview with a company, be able to answer why that company. It's incredibly important. People want to hire people who are passionate, not just about any job, but their job. Not just about any company, but their company. So when you're talking about Apple, this is what I always say when I answer this question, I help people answer this question. 50% of it should be about the specific job you're going to be doing, the task, right? I like helping people. I'm really passionate about Apple products, and the ability to help people find their way through their products and select which one is right for them would be exciting to me. Or helping people solve the specific issues so I can make their product more effective for them. I would find that incredibly motivating. So half about the specific job, and then half of the answer should be about the company, company product, why the company inspires you, or company values, right? 50% the job, 50% the company. So when you're asking that, whatever you do, put the, whatever you specifically decide to focus in on, make it a little bit about the actual job, make it a little bit about the company, and you will nail this interview question. All right, let's get into the personality questions. These ones are really interesting, but just in the next 2 to 3 minutes, I'm going to teach you how to answer all of them pretty much flawlessly. Now, the first question is, what frustrates you the most? The key here, the absolute key, the thing you need to remember is that it can't be something that you're going to need to do in the job. So if they said, I'm gonna give you a terrible example first. Okay, if they go, Ben, what frustrates you the most? And I go, well, I really hate it when people can't solve their own problems. Well, that's not a good answer. You're gonna need to solve people's problems. Or if I say something like, I hate it when people don't do research on their own. Well, that's bad. People are gonna come in there without doing research, and you're going to need to ask questions and probe to find out which of Apple's products best serves them. So that's what you don't do. So let's talk about what you do. So given their values, and inclusion being one, right? A good answer to this interview question might be, in work, one of the things that frustrates me is working with people who aren't open to the idea of others. I've worked with people in the past who tend to be really focused on just their own ideas, but they aren't as interested in hearing what other people have to say. And I think when you have that mindset, you do yourself a disservice, because I think there's a lot of value in diversity of thought. Boom, there you go. That's how you answer that question. If you answer that question, if you say that, I think they're gonna love that answer. You're crushing. Let's go to the next question. The next question is, what would you change about yourself? This one's really interesting. It's introspective. Here's a good answer. You might say something like, I only speak one language, but I think if I could change something about myself, one of the things I think would be really interesting is if I could speak multiple languages. And then, bonus point here, if you're doing that. So you could follow that up with saying, right now I recently downloaded Duolingo, and I've actually been working on learning Spanish. I just think it would be interesting. I know it's good for your brain, and I think it would be a good way for me to learn more about another culture and perhaps connect with different people. That is a great answer. I mean, considering you're going into a role where you're going to need to communicate with different people, with different perspective, different walks of life, and you're expected to help them and want to help them, this is a great answer to this question. But basically make it something that is in alignment with Apple's core values. Remember, you're not just answering an interview question, you're answering an interview question for Apple. So your answers should be geared towards Apple. But that right there, that's a great way to answer this interview question. Let's go to the next. The next question is it's an oldie but a goodie, kind of. So this is actually something that when I did my last Apple video, how to get a job at Apple, and this again is Apple Corporate, they asked this too, and it says, if you were an Apple product, which would you be? The key here is it actually doesn't matter which one you are. It's not like, if you say Apple Watch, that's a bad answer. It better be iPhone. It's not like that. The key is you've got to know which one it is and why. And have a reason. So just know which one it is and have a good reason as to speak to why this is the one you'd want to be. Now quickly, I'm going to define what a behavioral question is because I think that's helpful. A behavioral interview question is basically a question that starts, tell me about a time when. What the interviewer is trying to make you do is look back into your history and not speculate on how you would act, but give an actual example of how you have handled a situation. It gives them a window into your behavior, how you problem solve, how you deal with issues, and it's not speculative. You've done this, so interviewers see it as more accurate. Now, before we get into this is how you answer a behavioral interview question. Again, anytime someone asks you a question where it starts with, tell me about a time when, or give me an example when they're forcing you to recall a previous example, follow the STAR method. So, STAR, situation, task, action, result. That is a framework, and it allows you to answer a question in an efficient and effective manner. Start with a situation. This was a situation I was in. Task, this was a task I needed to complete. Action, here's what I specifically did to have a positive outcome. And the result, here was the end result of everything I just walked you through. This allows you to quickly, efficiently, and effectively answer a question, include all the relevant details, and not ramble on. Okay, so that's how you answer like every behavioral interview question for the rest of your life. Let's get into the one that Apple asks you. Now, the first question is such a common one. It's a classic, and like people are gonna ask this at a ton of different companies, but tell me about a time when you received negative feedback from your boss. How did you handle it? Now, the key here is make it something authentic, right? But also not something terrible. Like, there was a time I stole a couple computers from my office and my boss gave me negative feedback and I was really sad about it. It's a terrible answer, right? Why was it a terrible answer? The sin is too significant. It is too great. So it should be something small. I always tell people when you're answering a question about something you did bad previously, cut your career in half, make it from the first half. You're 8 years into your career, make it the first 4 years, right? Put some distance between yourself and the action and then have a lesson, right? So this was a thing I did. The way I reacted to it is I wanted to really learn from it. I wanted to hear them, understand it, and become better because of it. And then the key to answering any question about a prior mistake is why it made you a better version of yourself. how did you instead, moving forward, alter your behavior to never find yourself in the same situation again? So remember, use the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. Give them an authentic thing that you did and you received some feedback of something you could have done a little bit better, how you received it in an emotionally intelligent, adult way that is mature, and then how you acted on it in a way to make sure that it didn't happen again and you were a better version of yourself. That's the key. If you do that, you're gonna answer this question great. The next question is a great one, and I'm gonna give you an amazing answer here because I think if you answer this, you're gonna come off as a great candidate. And it's talk about a time when you had to help a difficult customer who was impossible to satisfy. What did you do? So I would make a point, before I jumped into the STAR method, I would say, that's a really great question. I'm passionate about helping people, and one of the reasons is when you say difficult customer, I think anybody who is difficult is actually just frustrated. They're having a difficult time. And when that's the case, as someone who's in a customer service seat, you have the ability to help them and resolve that issue. So let me give you a specific time and then go into a specific time. Talk about how a customer was having a really hard time. Talk about how you listened to them. You understood, you took the time to hear them out. You took their frustration, you just dealt with it because okay, this isn't about me, this is about the issue. And then talk about how you went above and beyond to solve it. If it's just, I did this, they were mad, and then I did my job, and then they were good, that's not as powerful as talking about how you went above and beyond. You stayed a little bit late. You followed up with them after to make sure their issue stayed resolved. But make sure you do the situation they came in, the action. You were responsible for solving this issue for them. That's the task. The action, here's what you specifically did to solve their issue. Key, you went above and beyond, and the result, they were happy, they calmed down, they were satisfied with what you did, and then that's the result. That you turned a frustrated person into a advocate for the brand and a satisfied customer, and you did this with patience, and you were understanding. The last thing I want to touch on is mindset. Remember, you're a representative of Apple. You are here to solve problems. You are here to serve the customer. You're approachable and you're enthusiastic about Apple and what they offer the world. If you do these things, you will absolutely nail your interview and you will probably get hired for this job. And then you will help people like me who are not technical at all and break things frequently. There you go. Good luck in your next interview. You got this.